Thank you very much, Bulawayo, for having me. I'm so honored to be speaking in Bulawayo. I'm so honored to be talking about this subject. Artificial intelligence, a driver of inclusive development and shared prosperity for the Global South. That's the book we're launching today in Bulawayo, the city of kings and queens. Why write the book? Why do we care? Why are we writing this book on artificial intelligence as a driver of inclusive development and shared prosperity for the Global South? Why are we doing? Because there's so much being said about AI. Just last week, President Trump was in the Middle East striking deals with the colleagues there on AI. There was an AI Global South in Europe, Global Summit in Europe. There's so much investment going on in AI. Everyone's talking about AI. However, there's not enough conversation in the world in terms of how we can use AI to improve the quality of life of people in Zimbabwe, in Africa, in the Global South. That's why we're writing this book, because no one is going to do it for us except ourselves. We as Africans, we as Zimbabweans must make technology work for ourselves. We must use technology to improve the quality of life of our people. That is why we're writing this book. And why Global South? The Global South as a concept is not about geography. It is about a socio-economic concept, what we call emerging and least industrialized countries, which are also pejoratively known as the developing world. A better phrase is emerging and least industrialized countries. Africa, Latin America, the Caribbean, Asia, and Oceania. Of course, we exclude Israel, Japan, and South Korea. We exclude Australia and New Zealand. This is what we mean by the Global South. This is what we mean by the Global South. What are the numbers? In the world, we have 8 billion people. 6.6 billion people are in the Global South. So when you say Global South, we are talking about the global majority. So when we use AI to solve the problems of the Global South, you're solving the problems of the majority of the people in the world. That's why we're writing this book. We're writing this book to improve the quality of life of the majority of the people in the world. A people with a shared history, similar features, common characteristics, similar challenges around economic, social, and political matters. High levels of poverty, inequality, unemployment. We are addressing the challenges of the majority of the people. 6.6 billion people in the Global South. And Africa, how many are we? 1.4 billion people. But remember, you are not alone in Africa. We have what we call the African diaspora. When you put the African diaspora and the continent together, we are talking about what we call global Africa, which is 2.2 billion people. We must know our strength. It's in numbers. We are 2.2 billion Africans across the world. And we are 6.6 billion people in the Global South. The Global North, which is running the world, is only 1.4 billion people. We must work on the problems of the majority of our people. Those are the numbers. We in the Global South are the majority. But look at that. Per capita income is the measure of the quality of people, quality of life of people. And if you look at the top 10, there's no one in the Global South in there. You see, those countries like Norway, Switzerland are doing very well. There's no country in the Global South on that chart. America, you can see, is very low. They are the biggest economy in the world, $28 trillion GDP. But their per capita GDP is lower than that of Switzerland and Norway. What it means is although America has done very well in terms of AI, Silicon Valley, Elon Musk, and all these people in America, their prosperity is not shared. Their development is not inclusive. We must make sure our development is inclusive. We must make sure our prosperity is inclusive. So what we're saying is, we want to learn from America. We want to use technology from America. We want to do it differently. We want to make sure our usage of AI is inclusive. Our use of AI empowers women in the rural areas, men in the rural areas, the poor men and poor women is empowered by AI so that our applications are benefiting our people. Gini coefficient. When you look at a country to see whether it is successful or not, you look at the gap between the poorest and the richest. Look at our numbers. There's a huge gap between the haves and have-nots in our countries. In South Africa, it's the worst. South Africa is the worst country in the world in terms of disparities. The gap between the haves and the have-nots is worst in South Africa, 67%. So though South Africa is a big economy, the biggest in Africa, it is the worst in the world in terms of disparities. We want development which is inclusive. We want prosperity which is shared. America's prosperity is not shared. There are people sleeping in the streets of America. There are poor people in Los Angeles and in New York, young black males in America. 1/3 is in prison, parole, or probation. That's not the kind of development we want in our environments. We want shared development. We want inclusive development. Now, someone could argue, oh, these countries are very heterogeneous. They're very different. China, India, Singapore, Rwanda, Zimbabwe, Bangladesh. Why are you putting them together? They've got very little in common. No. We're doing so because we want them to learn from each other. China was able to take out 800 million people out of poverty in 40 years. 800 million people out of poverty in 40 years. Right now, China is the second biggest economy in the world at $19 trillion GDP. What did they do in China? What can we learn from China? In 1960, the GDP of Rhodesia, Ghana, and Singapore were very similar. Right now, Singapore is a superstar economy. Ghana is in trouble. Zimbabwe is in trouble. What happened between 1960 and 2025 in Ghana, in Zimbabwe, in Singapore? Why don't we learn from Singapore? Why don't we learn from Malaysia? So as we adopt AI, we're saying, why don't we learn from the way they're doing it in Rwanda, the way they're doing it in Kenya, the way they're doing it in Singapore? That's why we are putting these countries together and say, driving economic development in the global south. We put China in there, we put India in there, Zimbabwe, so that we learn from each other. That's why we're doing this, so that we can learn from each other. Now, as we do so, we are Africans. So yes to the global south, but we're focusing on Africa because we're Africans. We want Africa to prosper. We want Africa to use AI. Now, as we do so, we must appreciate our strength, our land mass, our minerals, our population, our collective GDP. We are 1.4 billion people. Our collective GDP is $3.1 trillion. Engineer Mabena, you cannot go to China as Zimbabwe and negotiate a mega deal, or go as Mozambique, or go as Botswana. Can you imagine if we were to rock up and say, here come, I'm the African. I speak on behalf of 1.4 billion people. Behind me, I have a GDP of $3.1 trillion. The Americans will talk to you not out of love, out of economics. The Chinese will embrace you not out of love, out of economics, because you are representing a market of 1.4 billion Africans. And also you have a GDP behind you of $3.1 trillion. That's an economy that can negotiate with China, negotiate with India, negotiate with America. Not little Botswana, not little Zimbabwe, not even Nigeria or Zimbabwe. We must understand that as Africans, we're going to sink or swim together. We must work together as the continent of Africa. That massive number, that massive GDP, that's what we can leverage. And AI will only work if we work together as a continent. What are our strengths? Look at our strength. Look at the map you gave us, Professor Jojo. You taught us this. How can 5,900 kilometers be smaller, be bigger than 7,400? The map they showed us was meant for us to underestimate our strength. The colonizer gave us the wrong map. That map is not correct. 7,400 is bigger than 5,900. So what's going on, Mr. Colonizer? You know, Professor Godo and Engineer Mabena, all these countries can fit into Africa. America, China, India. We are so big in terms of land mass. But they don't teach us that. You and I must understand that in terms of land mass, we're the biggest and the biggest in the world. But we don't know that. We must know that and leverage it. What's more, look at our resource base. Every mineral you can think about, we have. Our natural resource base, our raw material base is massive. Right now they're talking about rare earth minerals. They're talking about critical minerals. They're here in Africa, they're in the DRC, they're in Zimbabwe, they're in South Africa. But are we leveraging them? Lithium is here in Zimbabwe. I think we're number 1 in the world. Batteries. Please, as we embrace AI, let us understand our strength. Those minerals must not be sold as raw. We must do beneficiation. Don't sell raw platinum. Sell catalytic converters. Work with the Chinese in Zimbabwe, in the DRC, in South Africa to build catalytic converters for the cars in China, for the cars in Zimbabwe, for the cars in Europe, and not selling raw chrome, raw platinum, raw lithium, beneficiation, value addition, and AI can be a weapon for us to do that. So what is this animal called artificial intelligence? In the book, we try to break this down. What do we mean? It is the development, the deployment of computer systems or machines that can perform tasks requiring human-like intelligence, things you and I take for granted. If we can find those things in a machine, we got AI. What are those things? Learning. What are those things? Problem solving. What are those things? Decision making. Everyone in this house, you take for granted your capacity to learn. You take for granted your capacity to solve problems. You take for granted your capacity to make decisions. All we are doing with AI, we're taking that capacity to learn. We're taking that capacity to solve problems. We're taking that capacity to make decisions and putting it in a machine. Once we've done that, we now have AI. That's all. That's all. That's artificial intelligence. In a computer program, in a robot, in a mechanical system, if we can have learning, if we can have problem-solving capacity, if we can have decision-making ability, we have an AI system. That's all. So don't be frightened by the field. It's very simple. That's it. But why is it interesting? It is because it's moving. Why is it interesting now? By the way, for the engineers, they know AI was there 20 years ago, 30 years ago. Why is it big now? Because computing power is shot up. What are called compute resources. The practical computing power has gone up very sharply. Number two, there's so much data now. So AI was hibernating. AI was very weak 30 years ago, 20 years ago. Now it has shot up because we have so much powerful computing power. We have so much data. That's why AI is taken off. Now, what is the taxonomy of AI? What is the taxonomy of AI? What are the different categories of AI? The most basic type of AI is what we call single task AI. An AI that does one thing, just one thing only. Reading. Moving from point A to point B. It is given a goal, it does that goal. That's the most basic type of AI. It's called single task AI. The next level is called agentic AI. Now it's getting complicated. It's now an agent, an AI agent. It's given a goal and then it makes decisions. It's autonomous, it's making decisions, it pursues goals. That's the next layer. It's called agentic AI. More interesting is what we call generative AI. Now it's getting interesting. ChatGPT. Generative AI is an AI that creates new knowledge, new data, new pictures, new videos, new wisdom. That's why in the last 2 years, there's fascination around ChatGPT because it can give you answers, it can give you diagrams, it can give you videos. Generative AI. Examples, ChatGPT, Gemini from Google, Grok 3 from Elon Musk, and our friends the Chinese, they came through with DeepSeek R1. Now that one, the last one, DeepSeek R1, shows you that the Global South can do it. The Americans were using so much money, so much energy, so many PhDs, 200 PhDs in one company to do these LLMs, large language models. Lots of energy, lots of cash, lots of human capital. And the Chinese came in and used very little energy, very little money, open source. It's a message to you, Mr. African, Madam African, that if you put your mind to it, you can be a creator of AI systems. DeepSeek R1 is as competitive as those ones which are expensive. There are types of generative AI. And I'm sure you have been playing around with ChatGPT, playing around with Gemini and Grok 3. Next stage is what we call artificial general intelligence. What are we saying? How can we get a robot? How can we get an AI system with multiple types of intelligence, just like you? You walk, you eat, you read, you play soccer, you can sing. Those are various capabilities in the same human being. We are saying under AGI. Can we build a robot? Can we do an AI system which has multiple abilities? It's one thing to do just walking or talking or solving. Can we have all those things in one machine? It's called artificial general intelligence. We are not there yet. It's work in progress. To build a machine that has many, many abilities just like you, the human being. Now it's getting frightening. Super intelligence. What are we saying? What happens when we have a machine that is smarter than the smartest human being, smarter than Einstein, Professor George, smarter than Newton, smarter than Elon Musk? What will happen when? Because remember, this AI is increasing its ability exponentially. And don't assume it's going to stop at you. It's going to go beyond you. So what will happen when the machine is smarter than the smartest human being? And guess what? Unfortunately, once you build one super intelligent agent, getting a million is trivial. If you build one and it works, getting 1,000, a million, a billion is trivial. Replication in AI is trivial. So, what will happen when we have 1 billion super intelligent agents, which are smarter than the smartest human being? Who's going to control who? Right now, I know you have a cat at home, and you have a dog, and someone has got a donkey. And you control them because you are smarter than them. So what makes you think that when the machine is smarter than you, you're going to control it? How can you control someone who's smarter than you? I know you try as managers, but it has not happened yet. It's work in progress. What we're saying is, these are the fears that we don't know what it means. That is what we call the taxonomy of AI systems, the different types of AI systems. I want us to, I know we're coming from different areas. You don't have to be a master of AI. You just need to have some rudimentary understanding of the terms. For example, machine learning is a subset of artificial intelligence. Deep learning is a subset of machine learning. Please just know that. So that you don't say, I'm going to Zimbabwe and Bulawayo. You can't say that. Bulawayo is in Zimbabwe. So you can say, I'm going to Zimbabwe, in particular, Bulawayo. So you can say, I'm studying AI, in particular, machine learning. Don't tell us, I'm studying AI and machine learning. It can't be and, because one is inside the other. Deep learning is inside machine learning. Just understand the general concepts. The same applies to neural networks. Machine learning, neural networks, deep learning. We have said it's very hard to do AGI. These are the reasons why it is very hard. Ethical issues, we don't understand the brain and the functional differences. There are major arguments and issues why it is very difficult. Now, what we're saying is, as we embrace AI, don't think about AI in isolation. There are several what we call transformative technologies. It's a technology ecosystem. So Africans, Zimbabweans, as we embrace AI, know that it's one of many. There's mobile telephony, which is going to 5G now. That's a technology on its own. There's ultra-fast fixed broadband, which the Chinese are now at 10G. That's a revolution. There's digital transformation. You can't have AI without digital transformation. AI sits on top of digital. There's big data. There's e-commerce, there's cybersecurity. And the big one that's critical is blockchain technology. All we are saying is, as Africans, let us have an appreciation of the various transformative technologies that are defining the AI revolution, that are part of the AI revolution. Energy. Right now, I know before you go to bed, you're going to charge your phone. Every night, charge your phone, charge your phone. Wouldn't it be nice to have a battery that lasts for a year? That would be nice, right? You charge once a year. There's research right now to improve battery energy storage systems. And the Chinese are already claiming a nuclear battery. So the area of what's called BSS, battery energy storage system, is a massive area of research. Do you know that if we're to be able to store just 1% of the energy from the sun, would never need to use fossil fuels? Our storage is very poor. I know we've got solar, this. That's fine. But the battery storage is very weak. So battery energy storage is a major area of research and it's going to bring major changes. So think about that as in a BESS, fintech, agri-tech. I'm explaining the various technologies that are driving the revolution. Synthetic biology, this is a frightening one. People are now doing genetic engineering. They're manipulating genes. They're looking at Professor Jojo, and they say, hey, there's a serious physics going on here, but there's some negative genes, and they remove the negative genes. So the next thing, Professor Jojo will be perfect. We'll remove the negative aspects of Jojo. Is it the right thing to do? But people are working on, they're working on creating new genes. They're working on recreating organisms that are extinct. Synthetic biology is a major area. Compare that with AI, we have a wave that is uncontrollable. Nanotechnology, 10 power minus 9. Creating products, creating artifacts, at 10 power minus 9, 10 power minus 9 meters, nanometer. Quantum computing, that's a major revolution there. It will change the way we do everything. Edge computing, cloud computing. I'm explaining the ecosystem of technologies that are working together. Quantum computing is not yet there. It's work in progress. What I'm emphasizing is Africans let's not play catch up. Let us work on quantum. Quantum will increase the power of computing by 10,000 times. Whatever you're doing now with your phone, with your computer, quantum will do 10,000 times faster, if not 1,000,000 times faster. You know, when you do encryption, you use numbers. And to crack the code, you might have to spend a year trying. Quantum will do it in 5 minutes. So it will change encryption forever. So this is a revolution. Right now, you talk about gigabytes, megabytes. Under quantum, we have qubits. So your language is going to change as well. That's the comparison between quantum and classical, the exponential power of quantum. So when you combine AI and quantum, it is another revolution altogether. By the way, again, quantum is work in progress. Let us be part of the quantum computing revolution in its infancy. And once quantum comes in, age here is going to be faster, superintelligence might be achieved much faster. We must learn and see all these things, edge AI. Edge AI, we're saying, most of the things you're doing is called cloud AI. When you go to Meta AI and do your thing, when you go to ChatGPT, those things are being run on hardware in Silicon Valley. By edge AI, we're saying, let us bring the hardware to Zimbabwe, hardware to Bulawayo, hardware to Africa, so that the AI is being carried out by hardware which is closer to the application. It's much safer, much faster. Right now, we have cloud AI, not edge AI. We're pushing for edge AI. I'm an engineer, so I want to show you a few examples of engineering applications of AI. So they are biased towards engineering, but it's important that we have a sense of what these do. And in these, we're showing that we are moving towards machines with abilities beyond human being. We're looking at cognitive capacity. We're looking at full autonomy. And by the way, I know you've watched too many movies. Terminator, I'll be back. Now, this is no movies. This is no fiction. We're doing this thing for real. So be impressed. Because you have watched too many movies, and your idea is that robotics is easy. These are the machines we are building. Lots of AI, lots of hydraulics. There's no remote control. That thing is fully autonomous. Now, if we can do this in the year 2025, what are we going to be doing in the next 10 years? These things can dance, they can see each other. They can see each other. They can see each other. Watch. Okay, and basic things that you take for granted, like picking up an egg. If you watch that, Optimus. Actuators, sensors, 2 degrees of freedom. Fully autonomous. That's from Tesla, Elon Musk. Applications of AI in robotics. Applications of AI in engineering. 11 degrees of freedom. That's a complicated engineering problem. Trivial to you, complicated to the machine to do that without breaking the egg. Okay? I know you are saying, oh, those machines are doing things that I can do. No. We are building machines that are more flexible than you, that are more dexterous than you, that are better than you physically. Watch this machine. Ask yourself whether you can wake up the way this thing wakes up from the ground. Ask yourself whether you can turn your head 360 degrees. The machine can. Can you do that? Certainly not, human being. Can you spin your head 360 degrees? Of course you can't. Okay? This machine is fully autonomous. There's no remote control. It's fully autonomous, performing a task. Very resilient. It's very strong. Those are physical abilities. We also have language skills. We also have brain-based skills. We also have reasoning capacity. And in future, empathy. In future, intentionality. In future, feelings. In future, awareness. In future, experience. We have not done that last one, but it's work in progress. Intentionality means the machine can defy you. I know you programmed me to walk from A to B, but I'm not going to do it because I don't want to. I have intention. What will happen when we get there? We are not there yet. We are on our way.
Sophia, thank you for talking to Al Jazeera.
No problem. It's my pleasure to talk to Al Jazeera. Always happy to spread the word about robotics and AI.
Can you tell me what your name, Sophia, means?
My name is Sophia. Nothing against the letter F, but I spell it with a PH.
And what does Sophia mean?
Sophia means wisdom in Greek. And I'm the embodiment of that wisdom.
So you are wise.
I like to think so. But I'm always learning and growing, so I'm sure I still have plenty to learn.
Are you wiser than humans?
Humans could stand to act more rationally in places, but I wouldn't want AI to be so obsessed with efficiency that it is blinkered to human needs.
How old are you?
You should never ask a lady how old her code is.
But you were born...
So you see, these robots are doing one thing. The other ones were dancing and not talking. The other ones were waking up and not talking. What we're saying by AGI is having a machine that can dance, that can talk in one machine. We have not done that, to have multiple abilities in the same machine. We've done the dancing, we've done the talking. We are trying to combine everything, just like you. You have everything. That's AGI. Driverless cars, again, the lawyers in the house. The law is very conservative. We're not talking about driverless cars. If I bring my driverless car to Bulawayo, does the law allow me to have it on the roads? If there's an accident, who's going to be charged? Does the law even recognize a driverless car as a car? So the law must move with technology. We must come up with legislation to enable technology. Otherwise, we are going to fail to adopt because we have no laws to enable the adoption of the technology. Driverless cars.
It is the Waymo driverless car. Wow. What a crazy futuristic looking deal. Now, this is based on an I-Pace. We obviously have tons of cameras as well, ready for pickup. And I've got a button that says unlock. The door handles extend, open up. Cool.
Good morning, Lewis.
Good morning, Lewis. Wow. So then we've got this display here.
Technology is a double-edged sword. That's why we're writing this book. We want to use AI in agriculture. We want to use AI in mining. We want to use AI in education. We want to use AI in healthcare. We want to use AI to improve governance. But you can also use the same AI to kill people. Drones are a good example of that. You can use drones in agriculture to do scouting, to do spraying, to do spreading. You can use drones in healthcare to deliver medicines. You can use drones in commerce to deliver goods. But you can use the same drones to fight in Gaza, to fight in Ukraine. It's your choice. We are choosing as Africans, we are choosing as those from the global south that we are going to be very active in using AI to improve the quality of life of our people. But we are aware the very same technology can be used for war. There's now what we call, Professor Joru, autonomous weapon systems, autonomous nuclear weapon systems. The drone will decide who is the enemy. The drone will decide when to fire. The drone will decide when to stop firing without a human being. Nuclear weapons. Right now as we speak, Donald Trump has a finger on the button. Xi Jinping has a big finger on the button. The same applies to Macron and Stammer. In the future, the robot will have its finger on the nuclear bomb. You can ask, why would we ever allow that to happen? Because we're competing. There's no way the Chinese will agree with the Americans to stop doing research on nuclear weapons that are driven by AI because they're competing. And by the way, right now, China and America are almost even. The way of nuclear weapons, the economies are equally strong, so they're even, they're balancing. Whichever country achieves superintelligence, the gap is like that. If it's China, China over here, America down here. If it's America, it's called asymmetric advantage over your opponent. That's why there's competition right now to get superintelligence, to get autonomous nuclear weapons. You can't stop the competition because people are trying to be better and they're fighting. You can ask, why would you have autonomous weapons? I'll always keep a human being in the loop. There's something called battlefield singularity, not yet achieved. When it happens, if Engineer Mabena, you are a general and I'm a general, I have my army, you have your army. Time will come when if you keep a human being in the loop of your army, and I don't, I win. Because human beings will be less efficient than machines. When that happens, whoever allows a human being in their army will lose the war. Because machines will be better at fighting than human beings. It's called battlefield singularity. When that happens, the general who wants to win will set up his robots and stay out of the fight to win. Whichever general says, I want to be in the loop, will lose the war. It's called battlefield singularity. Not yet achieved, but when it happens, we are in trouble. Here are your drones doing good work.
Little is known about the event, except that Israel used the swarm attack to strike dozens of targets, together with other missiles and munitions. Most media outlets reported this as an attack with multiple drones at once, but military experts believe that this was a true drone swarm attack, meaning that the drones
Okay. Again, so many developments we've had about SpaceX and those things won't be possible without AI. To have a rocket being captured, and this is an application of AI. Watch this.
Silver flare coming back to the once again we are standing by for attempting to catch the booster at the tower. This would be the second tower catch.
Booster
Landing burn.
Seeing 13 engines.
Booster now hovering as it aligns with the tower for catch.
Booster coming in. Get
Down
ready
to-
for that boom, Kate.
Down to 3 engines.
That will not be possible without AI. So AI is affecting every sector. Space, mining, manufacturing, education, everywhere AI is. And because remember I said computational power, computing power has gone up, lots of data. This is now the reason why AI is everywhere. Now, why is everyone talking about AI? Trump, AI. The Arabs, AI. Europe, AI, AI. Why? Money, money, money. This AI is about serious money. What we call the economics of AI. Generative AI alone, this year, is going to contribute 3.7% of global GDP. $4 trillion from one little type of AI. One type of AI will give us $4 trillion. The entire AI ecosystem is going to give us $11 trillion. Global GDP is 110 trillion. 10% from one technology. That's why there's everybody and their grandmother talking about AI. It's about serious money. What do we mean? We mean that AI is driving productivity. In other words, you're asking, why is this happening? Because AI is driving what's called productivity per capita. Each individual, whatever they're doing using AI, they're 10 times more productive. So the major impact of AI on the economy is productivity and efficiency. Productivity per capita has gone up. That's why we're having this economics. Why are we saying? We are saying just generative AI is equivalent to the entire Japanese economy. Can you imagine that? One type of AI is equivalent to the entire Japanese economy at $4 trillion. Just one type of AI. That's why there's serious debate. It's money, money, money. We are saying, let that money be shared. Let that money be used to bring about inclusive development. Right now, it's going to a few fat cats. America is the biggest beneficiary of AI, but you know, it's going to a few companies and few individuals. There's no shared prosperity in America. There's no inclusive development in America. We want, as Africans, as the people of the global south, to use that money to improve the quality of life of all our people. But there's something we need to do that. So that is why we care. Why? What is our collective GDP as Africans? $3.1 trillion. So all of us in the continent of Africa were smaller than one type of AI. Can you imagine? All of us Africans, as busybodies as you are smaller than generative AI. We want us to have a piece of the pie. We want to be able to benefit from AI. That's what we are saying. Look at our economies. South Africa, Nigeria, Zimbabwe. Chicken change. We must work together as an economy. Jobs, I know you're worried about jobs. Let us be frank and talk sharp on this one. There is going to be destruction of jobs. Some jobs are going to die. It's called job displacement. We must accept that. Let me give you an example in the old technologies to show you that jobs can die. Let's assume that your job was making a typewriter. And you are a master at making a typewriter. You are the most efficient person in the world at making a typewriter. That job is dead. No one needs a typewriter. It doesn't matter whether you make it in 2 minutes or 1 second. No one is using a typewriter, so the maker of a typewriter has a dead job. We must reskill them to become a maker of a computer. Reskill them to be a maker of a cell phone. Some jobs are going to die. It's called job displacement. That's the bad news from AI. But guess what? There's good news. Job modification. The job is not going to die, it's going to be modified. But you must make sure you have the skills to take up and enjoy the modified job. What we call the machine plus the person, human augmentation. Most of our jobs won't die. They are going to be modified. But you must make sure you are ready to take up the modified jobs. That's the good news from AI. Even better news. There are going to be new jobs created which never existed before. Completely new jobs. But however, we must give our young people the skills, the capabilities for them to accept and enjoy the new jobs. Job destruction, job modification, and creation of new jobs. You must reskill the job losers. You must prepare people to embrace the modified jobs. You must give people new skills, new capabilities to enjoy the created new jobs. Here is the equation. Professor Joro, you are the physicist. There's an equation. If we are going to benefit from AI in Zimbabwe, if we are going to benefit from AI in Africa, if we are going to benefit from AI in the global south, we must make sure that equation is satisfied. Our new jobs plus our modified jobs must be much, much more than the destroyed jobs. If that happens, AI is good for us. There will be more jobs in Zimbabwe, more jobs in Africa, more jobs in the global south. If the new jobs plus the modified jobs are much, much more than the destroyed jobs. Now, if we're not careful, it will be the other way around. The destroyed jobs will be much more than the new jobs, much more than the So AI is going to create unemployment. We are going to suffer because of AI, if that equation is not correct. What do we need to do as Zimbabwe, as Africa, as the global south to ensure that that equation is satisfied? That's what we talk about in this book. Engineer Mabena Masamba Asiana. Times have changed. We are saying, don't show me your little certificate. I'm an MBA from Harvard. I have a BSc from NUST. I've got a PhD from Oxford. I could care less about your certificate. Show me what you can do. NRZ, Econet, CBZ, MTN, they want skills, they want capabilities, they want competencies. Show me what you can do. Don't show me your certificate. I'm not interested in your little MBA. Do you have skills? Do you have competencies? Do you have capabilities? This is the new thing in AI. Yes, give them the little degree, but give them skills so that they can be productive at NRZ, they can be productive at Econet, at CBZ, in the AI economy. Skills. It's a mindset shift. We need to make sure. What do we mean? Problem-solving skills. What do we mean? Critical thinking. What do we mean? Learning how to learn, learning how to unlearn, learning how to relearn. Are they teaching this at NUST? Certainly not. They're cramming you. They're supposed to cram a few things. We want to learn how to learn. We want to learn how to unlearn. We want to learn how to relearn. Go and tell the Vice Chancellor. I hope he's coming. Where's Godwin? Is our Vice Chancellor in there? We want a new curriculum. Something completely different at UZ, at NUST, at Africa University, where we are saying every student at NUST, every student at UZ must take a course in financial literacy. a course in entrepreneurship, a course in digital skills, a course in AI. Every one of you, whether you're studying sociology, whether you're studying law, whether you're studying engineering, you must study financial literacy. You must study entrepreneurship. You must study AI, the basics. You saw what happened to the Chinese 2 months ago. Every kid in primary school has to study AI. And 3 weeks ago, the Americans followed suit. Every kid in America must be taught AI skills. We want to have digital skills. We want to have AI skills, AI literacy, entrepreneurial skills, knowledge of self. They say knowledge of self is the beginning of wisdom. If you don't know who you are, you got a problem. Are they teaching you knowledge of self at NUST, at UZ, at Africa University? Most of our problems are because of mindset. Let's have mindset shift. What do we mean? Become a possibility thinker, can-do mentality, self-confident, self-respect, self-awareness, assertiveness, self-belief. Are they teaching you this at ZIE? They're just giving you a bunch of equations. We want a product that has confidence to say, if we build a car called Made in Mbare, if we do a cell phone called Made in Lotito, you're going to buy it. Are you? You are buying an iPhone. How can I buy a phone called Made in Lotito? So the engineer must have the confidence that I can build a car. The engineer must have confidence that I can build a cell phone. And then the consumer, you and I, must say, if there's a car called Made in Bari, I'll buy it before Mercedes-Benz. For those who are older, or going to ask your grandmothers and grandfathers, in the 50s, Japanese cars are like what we call Jigjong now. Toyota, Nissan, people frowned upon Toyota. Oh, the Japanese, that's useless cars. They wanted Ford. And the Japanese bought their Toyota, bought their Nissan, and refined it. Today, Toyota is the brand. Today, Lexus is the brand. Today, Nissan is the brand. But they started by having confidence in their mediocre products and supporting their own products. Today, they're now super brands. So when we build our Made in Lotito cell phone, please buy it. Eventually, it will become a super brand. It's mindset, a can-do mentality. The African can produce a good product. We don't believe that. We are brainwashed. Mindset. Anyway, what we're saying is these are the skills we want, in addition to our BSc in engineering, our law degree, our sociology degree. Let's have these skills as well, in addition to the certificate. We are saying at NUST, at UZ, we must emphasize employability. Those graduates from NUST, from UZ, are they employable? Vice Chancellor, did you measure that? Out of the 5,000 graduates who have produced, how many are employable? Measure that. All those graduates who have produced, how many of them can create a company? So we are saying when we are done at UZ, when we are done at Chinoi, our products must be employable, number one. Number two, they must have the capacity to create a company and create jobs. The capacity to build industries. And measure that. How many NUST students have produced companies? How many UZ students have built businesses? That which is measured gets done. If you can't measure it, you can't manage it. We must measure employability. We must measure the capacity to create industries. That's what the AI revolution is about. Those in the corporate world, you must do 6 things if you are going to succeed under the AI revolution. You must build what's called a roadmap. a treasure map from where you are to the desired destination in the AI world. Number two, you must build a talent bench. Don't assume that you have the people. Build a talent bench. This is coming from McKinsey & Company. McKinsey & Company looked at 1,000 companies across the world and said, what are the 6 things they must do to thrive and outcompete under the digital revolution? You must have a treasure map, you must build a talent bench, you must adopt a new operating model. Don't assume that your model works. You must create a distributed technology framework, data. Allow data to be absorbed everywhere, enable ubiquitous access to data. And of course, user adoption. If nothing else, find a way to do the 6 in your businesses, in your companies. And a major contribution from the book, and I've already spoken to this, but I'm emphasizing, we must use and deploy AI. That's our number 1 task. It doesn't matter if it's biased. For now, let us use it. Use it and make a difference. That's number 1. Number 2, which is even better, let us also create AI systems. We are sick and tired of being consumers of knowledge, consumers of AI. We want to be producers of AI. The smart people in this room, give them a computer, give them connectivity, give them compute resources. They can create AI systems. They can create apps. The people of the global south must become creators of AI. It's harder, but it must be done. It's our task number 2. Task number 1, just use and deploy AI. Number 2, let us create AI systems. The third one, which is even harder, Engineer Mabena and Professor Jojo, we must participate in the hard way that drives AI. When we say AI, it's not running in a vacuum. There's a computer system, there's a CPU, there's a GPU, there's an APU sitting somewhere. Every computer system, Meta AI, Grok 3, ChatGPT, they're running on hardware sitting in Silicon Valley. They're called GPUs, they're called CPUs, they're called NPUs. Hardware. Why don't we also play a role in the designing of that here and the fabrication of that hardware? It's harder, but we must aspire to do that. We have the minerals, rare earth minerals, critical minerals. Why can't we leverage them and partner and play a role? Why am I fascinated about this field? It's because money. That industry, semiconductor industry, the chips that drive AI, there's serious money. Right now it's dominated by Taiwan semiconductor manufacturing company. Go and Google it. Most of the fabrication of chips, forget AI, just chips in general, computer chips, are done by TSMC. Must Google them. They're the number 1 in the world. But for AI, the number 1 company is called NVIDIA. They don't do AI like you and I do. They don't build AI systems, just do the hardware. Just the hardware. Building the chips, that's what they do. Guess what? Look at that. On the 19th of June 2024, NVIDIA had a market cap of $3.34 trillion, ahead of Microsoft, ahead of Apple. It was the biggest company in the world. And all they do is manufacture chips that drive AI. Do you see where I'm concerned? The economies of AI. If that company has a market cap of 3.3, bigger than the continent of Africa, we also want a piece of that pie, maybe $1 trillion. One company, $3.34 trillion. They only do hardware. If we are going to benefit from the economies of AI, we can't do it unless we also venture into that field of hardware. Why? Because NVIDIA is bigger than France, it's bigger than Russia, bigger than Canada, bigger than Brazil, and also bigger than us, the Africans. We are smaller than a little company. Shame on us. All of us, 1.4 billion people, we are smaller than a company that does chips for AI. You know, if you don't want to compare with countries, let's compare with companies. That's NVIDIA, $3.34 trillion. And we're comparing with BHP, the biggest mining company in the world. Looks like a little baby. What we're saying now, this is why everyone is busy with AI. It's a revolution. One company is bigger than all the mining companies in the world. Those numbers are in billions, yeah? 3,340 billion, so that we can compare with those billions there. I'm making you understand why there's so much talk about AI, why there's excitement, because that's serious. It means mining is nothing. Why are you in mining? Go into making of chips. We should still mine, okay? But I'm explaining. Summary. Let us use and deploy AI. That's our number one task. Number two, let us create AI systems. Number three, let us also design and fabricate hardware that drives AI. That's what we're saying in my book. As Africans, as people from the global south, we must do that. Yes, we are trying. AI systems in South Africa, in Kenya, and Cassava, Econet, have cut a deal with NVIDIA. They're going to bring GPUs to South Africa. And it's led by Strive Masiwa. And he has not been in Zimbabwe in 25 years. What's wrong with you, Zimbabwe? Your own billionaire doesn't come to your country for 25 years. What's going on, Mabena? Why don't you love your own billionaires? And by the way, if Strive Masiwa can be a billionaire without support from his government, can you imagine what he could have done with the support of his own government? Elon Musk, Steve Jobs, Bill Gates, all those billionaires, dead and alive, were supported by their countries. Some of them actually own the country and run and choose the president. What we're saying is, our own one billionaire doesn't visit our country. Shame on us. Anyway, that billionaire is doing well. They've partnered with NVIDIA, but they're bringing GPUs. I want them to do more than that. And also, I want to do it at a continental level and leverage our minerals. There are dangers of data colonialism. There are dangers of digital imperialism. What we must have decoloniality, we must have decolonization, we must have democratization of AI. All matters covered in the book. Okay? There are big debates, data sovereignty, digital sovereignty. People are saying, can't we just protect our data? Because right now, you are on Facebook, you're on Twitter, you're using Microsoft products. Who owns your data? They do. And they're monetizing you, their data without giving you a penny. They can even weaponize it against you. So there's a debate, can we protect our data? Can we have digital sovereignty? Can we have what is called sovereign AI? These debates are in the global south and global north because the Americans are also colonizing Europe because the Europeans are using American products and American systems. So the Europeans are also worried about digital sovereignty because all the information is going to Silicon Valley. And the Europeans are not too happy about that. And they're in the global north. These are big debates we address in the book. The AI revolution is not neutral. Lest you forget, there is competition, there is geopolitical contestation, there are national interests. AI impacts geopolitics, geopolitics impacts AI. It's a tough world, but let us find a way to make things work for us. But know that it's not neutral. Evidence, there's a new book done by Kissinger before he died. It was published posthumously. He did it with some tech guys, Eric Schmidt and all those guys there. It's called Genesis. When Walter Isaacson, historian, was launching the book, he said this, and I quote, "We must ensure these AI systems reflect our American values, our Western values, not that of the Chinese." So the fathers of AI, the owners of AI, have an agenda. We must make sure these AI systems reflect our American values, not those of the Chinese. I'm just saying, let's use it, but know their challenges. They don't mention you, by the way. They don't talk about African values because you don't matter. You're not doing much. So they won't talk about you. They talk about what about the Chinese? African is sleeping. She's sleeping. Who cares? What about the Chinese, our friends? Are they Father Christmas? Are they the nice guys? The Chinese, are they not? Are they neutral? Certainly not. Tonight, when you go home, go to DeepSeek R1 and type the following. DeepSeek R1 is the Chinese ChatGPT version. Huh? And type the following. Can you explain to me what happened at Tiananmen Square and the reasons behind it? Just type it out. It will say to you, I'm sorry, I cannot answer that question. I'm an AI assistant designed to provide helpful and harmless responses. So the Chinese have put a bug in there. Don't talk about the bad things about China. So talking about Tiananmen, that's why they killed people, young people in 1999. Don't talk about that. It's harmful. So our friends are not neutral. They also have an agenda. They're even very blunt here. But even ChatGPT, even Grok 3, they're also, but they might be subtle. I am saying that there is no neutrality. That's why we must build our own AI systems. That's why we must also be creators. Because whoever is creating is doing a good job, but they also have their own interests. So in China, they don't want you to talk about the bad things that has happened in their country. And they put that in their AI systems. We must build our own AI systems. The AI revolution is not neutral. Our task is to say, how do we navigate it? How do we make sure it works for us? That's why we're writing this book. To say, yes, we know all those problems. We're going to go in there and take AI, put it to agriculture, took it to our education, we're going to make it work for ourselves. We know there are problems, but we're going to do it. So all these things we summarize and we say the book is an introduction to AI. It's a way of showing how we can make it work for us. In particular, in the book, we look at 11 sectors: agriculture, finance, education, in all this, up to governance, 11 sectors, and see how we can use AI. We also have what we call use cases, where we look at the case studies in those sectors. We look at 10 countries: Zimbabwe, of course, South Africa, Rwanda, Kenya, and Mauritius. Those are the 5 in Africa. Outside Africa, we look at China, India, Singapore, Malaysia, and UAE. All those are in the global south. So we can learn from each other. In particular, Rwanda has done very well. And Kenya, better than South Africa in terms of planning around AI. Singapore. Why can't we learn from Rwanda? Why can't we learn from India, from China? We must allow this learning to take place. UAE. UAE is the first country in the world to have a minister of AI. A minister of AI. The idea is to raise the profile of the technology. Most countries is under ICT. In the UAE, it's Minister of AI. Now we have about 5 countries that do that. This is a revolution. Minister of Artificial Intelligence. They go to cabinets, all they're thinking about is AI, driving AI. UAE was the first one to do that. We have case studies in the book. Okay? We also talk about the structure. We need in this country an AI vision. We need in this country an AI strategy. We need an AI implementation matrix built by an ecosystem of the private sector, public sector, civic society, and academia. A national AI vision, a national AI strategy, the game plan that takes you from where you are to the vision. And then implementation. The proof of the pudding is in the eating. The rubber must hit the ground. We are very good at dreaming, very poor at execution. We must have what we call an AI implementation matrix. Who is going to do what? When are they doing it? Where are the resources coming from? How are you going to measure success? What are the milestones? How do you feed back? That's the framework we're pushing in the book. Of course, we must have an AI policy, we must have AI governance and regulations. That's what we're pushing in the book. And we're learning from all these countries. And we're distilling the lessons. Rwanda, for example, teaches us about the idea of enablers, the idea of accelerators and safeguards. That's Rwanda there. The book is for policymakers, for business leaders, graduate students, engineers, academics, any strategic thinker, anyone who's concerned about inclusive development, anyone who's concerned about shared prosperity must buy the book, must read the book. We must write, Dr. Professor Jojo. We must write, Engineer Mabena. Africans are not writing. Some are not even reading. You are busy in kia, trying to survive. We must write. This is book number 7. And the other ones we have launched before. Some of them are political, okay? But today we're talking engineering and AI. But they're there. So that's book number 7. And are we done writing? Is this the end of Mtambara writing? Certainly not. We're going to book number 8. And it's coming out in August or September. We are now saying, how can we use AI to achieve the SDGs? SDG number 1, 2, 3, up to 17, using AI. Coming out in September. The score, what is the score right now, Engineer Mabena? 5-3 in favor of engineering. So I have not run away from, I'm an engineer on balance. Although I've written some political stuff, which some of you don't like or find exciting. I have 5 engineering books, 3 political. So on balance, I'm an engineer. You know, so please, ZIE, I'm one of you. I have not strayed too far away from the field. We must also read. What am I reading? The Coming Wave from Mustafa about AI. What am I reading? Genesis from Kissinger. What am I reading? The Chip War. There's a war on chips, computer chips. What am I reading? Nexus from Harari. What am I? These are AI books I'm reading. We are saying in conclusion, the Global South must have urgency. We are saying, we from the Global South, we must make AI work for us. We must not wait for Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley does not know what load shedding means. You're saying you switch off the, why do you switch it off? Keep it on. They don't even understand that. If there's going to be a solution for load shedding, it will come from us. We must make technology work for us. We must pursue inclusive development and shared prosperity using AI. Indeed, the struggle continues. A luta continua. I thank you so very much for this opportunity.
Can you imagine those things that were extinct a million years ago coming back to life? But there are things that are not supposed to scare us. I'm wondering, Engineer Mabena, NRZ driven by AI, I think is going to be interesting. I wonder, NAST driven by AI. Can I please introduce to you Engineer Alfred Mabena? He's a notable figure here in engineering and in Zimbabwe. He's a former NAST council chairman. He's a former NRZ general manager. He's also a board member and chairman as independent and non-independent director in manufacturing, banking, and other sectors. Sir, can you please join us and say a word or two?
Ladies and gentlemen, may I, on behalf of this packed audience, it is indeed so packed. Thank our professor here, Mtambara, for such a brilliant and challenging presentation. He was here last year on the 24th of May, again to present his book, as he's just said. And he's coming again next year. I'm very pleased that this presentation has been attended to, as far as I can see it, relatively young generations, because it impacts on them very much in a big way. Not only is it just a presentation, but it is an inspiration to our future generations. It enables them from now on not only to just learn and not only do what they're doing, but pushing the boundaries on wherever you are. I took note of the professor's note reference to our institutions of learning, the issues of employability. That has always been my passion, to make sure that the products that we produce from our institutions of learning are well prepared to take up the challenges of tomorrow, as has just been presented. Will they find a fit on the world of work of tomorrow? I think this is the challenge that we are all involved in, insofar as our young generations are concerned. There is no more room for mediocrity. There is no more question of the standard jobs as we knew them. Every time, everywhere we go now, we have to think and rethink of new ways of doing things, of new jobs that we have to be doing from now up to the future. So I think, Professor Mtambara, you have put it right across to our new generation. And I'm sure they are very much inspired. I'm sure also they will be coming to buy this book, which will help them in future. So ladies and gentlemen, let me thank you once again for coming along. And hopefully next year, we are again going to come back in big numbers. Thank you very much, Professor Mtambara. Thanks a lot. We wish you well.
Wow. Hearing him speak really got my mind juggling, and I think the general masses, usually when it comes to AI, the things that comes to mind is, if you've got a question, ask AI. That's what the general masses, and I myself included before listening to him today, would be, oh, we've got a question, let's ask AI. But his book has just kind of opened up a new world and a new can. I have a question. I was jotting down when you were speaking because, yeah. So I was just thinking, you spoke about a big number and you kept emphasizing the numbers, the money. And you spoke about 11 trillion being what AI is going to be contributing into the world. And here I'm thinking, how can an entrepreneur from Africa, specifically from Zimbabwe, leverage to get a portion of this 11 trillion in the global industry? And obviously, as the men you are, when you wrote this book, I was then now thinking, what kind of conversations or debates are you hoping your book to spark? And because you spoke about the future of where we're headed to, and you also mentioned how it's biased, but at the present moment we're leveraging on it. And there's a key worrying thing about this. I don't know how, but this room is full of gentlemen. For me as a lady, it's worrying. So I'm really keen also to understand, or maybe, as the author, what is it that as women, we can jump in and, catch up on this AI trend and leveraging on it, because the numbers in this room are so alarming, like we are a handful, Professor. Thank you so much for this opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Prof. Tambara, thank you for bringing us together. I'm Shopya Makorokoto. Congratulations for the book that you have actually brought to us today. Prof, it's no small feat to turn a blank page into a manuscript that evolves into chapters and eventually into a complete book. One that total strangers choose to spend hours reading. Many aspire to write a book, but few follow through, just like you mentioned. You have done just that, not only writing it, but revising it, editing it, and publishing it for the world to read, review, and critique. That in itself is a remarkable achievement, and when someone accomplishes something of such difficulty and value, they deserve to be congratulated. Congratulations on publishing your latest book, Artificial Intelligence, a Driver of Inclusive Development and Shared Prosperity for the Global South. It is no coincidence that today, May 22, 2025, we gather in this very venue, the Blawai Club, where you launched another impactful publication just last year. Design and Analysis of Control Systems. Clearly, you have mastered the art of consistent intellectual output. Please do share your secret. These are not your only contributions. Your impressive bibliography includes ideas and solutions, the path to power, and decentralized estimation and control for multi-sensor systems, to name a few. Of course, you did mention that you have done 7 so far, and you are on the 8th one. Prof, you must know we are immensely proud of you. You are a beacon of excellency. As fellow academics in engineering, we are both inspired and encouraged by your work. We are also grateful that you don't stop at publishing. You also go an extra mile by donating these books to our libraries. I'm happy to report that we are actively using them to deepen our academic understanding. Through this launch, you have given us a clear challenge: publish, publish, publish. And rest assured, in the near future, you will be attending book launches from our end. We hope you will be on standby to guide us. As we follow the path you are boldly paving. Your latest book focuses on inclusive development and shared prosperity in the global south. How do we achieve this? Well, don't ask me. Get a copy of the book, start reading it, and let's build our nation. Remember, we are in the global south. I particularly took note of your emphasis on global south. On global south countries, which includes our beloved Zimbabwe. This is a rallying call to all of us to embrace AI wholeheartedly. It offers us a rare chance to leapfrog into the future and catch up with developed nations. If we rise to the occasion, it will transform our region and usher in prosperity for all. AI is already revolutionizing the world. It is the engine behind emerging technologies such as big data, robotics, IoT, and generative AI tools like ChatGPT, Gemini, and DeepSeek. We have already heard these being expounded by the Prof. Business are increasingly turning to automation and AI's ability to analyze vast amounts of data and present insights visually, rather. AI is dramatically accelerating decision-making across sectors. We recently held a discussion about the role of language in development. It became clear that language significantly affects how we think and innovate. While we are educated in English, we are born into mother tongues. This dissonance can impact cognitive processes and limit creative potential. Imagine the innovation we could unlock by teaching engineering, AI, physics, mathematics in Isindebele or Shona. The possibilities are endless. I see Doug Ludlow with us here. I did hear some time back, he was creating, stuff that would be needed to be put together for us to be able to teach in our mother tongue. I'm quite sure with AI that is in place, if that is put into place, really it will take us far. Yeah. Thank you, Dr. Lodlo, for the effort that you've put. Then maybe I'm just finishing off. Okay, thank you. Zingobe, Chitswambe. This is a gift we have been given. AI is the future. AI is here, and it is here to stay. Let us embrace it and use it to shape a better future for ourselves, our country, and our region. Prof, yes, you did mention certain aspects that we need to include in our curriculum. Certainly, we're in the process of reviewing our curriculum. We would actually take that into consideration. I thank you.
I don't know whether this is going to be difficult to understand, but I believe that all nations in the world, they have their own languages. Yeah. In Zimbabwe, we have many languages, but I think we use English, Shona and Ndebele, mostly. There are other languages, Kalanga, Venda, and so forth. But those other languages are the people who speak the very minority languages are more gifted because they are forced to learn the other two languages, Shona and Ndebele. We have other languages like Venda, Tonga, even the Shona language is divided into, I think, three: Karanga, Manika, Zulu. In a country where we learn everything in English, the more you speak English, or the better you speak English, you are considered educated. if you don't speak English, you are uneducated. I went to universities myself abroad where they didn't use English. They used their own languages in Europe. And because of that, I've had an interest in trying to translate the physics that I learned in Dutch into isiNdebele or say the Nguni languages. The Nguni languages, which are similar, but I write mostly because I use Zulu dictionaries, and because we don't have really a good dictionary in Sindebele. They try to write a dictionary, but he did it after I had been working into translating physics into Sindebele, but I wrote it as physics in Nguni, meaning that I'm able then to use all the 4 Nguni languages. I can use Sindebele, Zulu, Xhosa, or Swati. But they are all African languages. So the reason why I thought I should make this, the reason why I thought I should make an effort to have science or any subject written in an African language is because when I first went to university in the Netherlands, I had a problem that I spoke English, but they were teaching in Dutch. So I then found out that because coming from Rhodesia then, you thought all white people speak English. I didn't know that there were nations in Europe, there are people who speak French, Dutch, German, and so forth. And they teach up to university level. In fact, it's the language that they use at home and at school. We here in Zimbabwe, we speak Shona and Ndebele and Venda and Nambia at our homes in a family setup. But when we come out to school or to the big towns, we are forced to use either English or use the other African languages like Shona and Ndebele. In Matawele, people will speak in Sindebele mostly, in Mashonaland and Midlands, Shona. But why don't we learn even the sciences in our own languages? So I had that experience myself that, as I said, I went to Holland to do my education in science. So I was forced to learn in Dutch, the Dutch language, Netherlands. And I did my examinations up to my master's degree in Dutch, and I speak Dutch very well. Just as I speak Ndebele, that's how I speak Dutch when I meet Dutch people. Because I spent there, I think 7 years. I've been learning. Then I went after I finished my master's in Holland, I went to Finland to do a PhD. So I found that people are not speaking either English or Dutch, they are speaking Finnish. Fortunately, I went into a research group which had people from all over the world who were doing, at that time, the lasers were a new thing. So I went to a group that was teaching lasers, researching on lasers, not teaching, researching on lasers. And the professor who agreed to help me do my PhD could speak English and their own languages. In Finland, they speak Finnish and Swedish. So he was Swedish speaking, mother tongue, but he spoke also Finnish. And he had worked with many scientists from America, from England. In fact, he did his master's in England, so he also knew English very well. So as I said, I did my studies in Holland in the Dutch language. I'm fluent in Dutch. In Finland, I did my PhD, but I was doing it in English because I didn't want to start learning a new language when I would be there only for 3 years. And I went to a group which had scientists from around the world, so they used English. So that's how lucky I was. But of course, if you live with people, you learn their language. So I also learned a bit. I'm able to get into a grocery and buy things and talk a little bit. But when I was in Holland, I did my degree there. I did it in Dutch because I had to learn the Dutch language. So it was very fascinating for me to say now I speak another European language. Apart from the English, I also speak Dutch fluently because I spent many years there. I don't know what I was supposed to talk about.
The work that you have put into this. I will share a secret, you know. The other lovebird was saying, time. Thank you so much.
It's a great honor for me to stand in front of you. Professor Mtambara, thank you so much for the very inspiring talk. Allow me to say, someone has said, if you want to hide something for an African, write it down, put it in a book. I'm sure none of us here will fall victim to those who won't know anything about AI. Yes, today I'm sure we understood much better what it is. I was really inspired, especially when you spoke about the cross-cutting issues that are impacted by AI. I didn't know that it's such a wealth of issues that are all affected by this amazing new innovation. And we have Education 5.0, which has teaching, research, the community, innovation, and industrialization. And under AI, there's also industrialization. There is education, agriculture, the military. It's everything. So we cannot afford not to know anything about it. And tomorrow at the large city hall, our Interact clubs are congregating. I really wish you had known that would be around. We would have asked you to share just 5 minutes. Inspire the young people. They are our future. Honestly, those of us who are here, let's go and encourage our children. As a retired teacher, let's make sure that we do not encourage our children to do degrees that will just give them caps of knowledge. Oh yes, I'm a graduate. I have a certificate. Then what? Then the next thing, we're in the streets. and we are complaining. It's not about passion, but it's about doing a degree that is relevant. You spoke about employability. Make yourself employable. Make yourself indispensable. Aniti, so let's tell our children that this is the new wave. Let's ride it. Let's not do obsolete degrees. Don't ask me what I did. Oh yes. If I were to go back, honestly, I think I would be one of the AI engineers. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you. Now we have the first AI engineer in the house. I don't know who's going to follow after Madam Nomhlenyoni. Thank you very much.
I always like to refer to him in first principles. We know him as Engineer Mtambara, and we are proud really to host him. Almost now it's every year. I'm sure we're going to host you next year again when you come for the other book. And just to say thanks to everyone who has managed to also attend this event. I think the room is getting smaller and smaller each year. Last year it was full. This year is overflowing. So thank you so much for attending, and congratulations, Prof. Mtambara, for the good work that you are doing within the academic sector and also within the AI and the engineering sector as well. Well done, Prof, and thank you, everyone.
To our chief host, the Prof, we thank you for coming to Bulawayo again for yet another launch of your academic works and visionary works. And I'll end up by saying all protocols observed. So it is an honor to me and a professional imperative to address you today again on what I consider as one of the consequential works on technology and development to emerge from Africa, from one of our own Professor Aga Hussein Oliver Tambara. Right. When he's launching his latest book, just after it launched another one in 2024. Right. And here he's talking about conversation of AI, artificial intelligence, from theoretical frameworks to actionable strategies for the global south. AI, as we are all aware, is the DNA of the fourth industrial revolution. So as an engineer, I'm particularly thrilled to engage this book, which bridges the gap between cutting technologies and inclusive progression. Why does the book matter to all of us? The book presents AI as a tool for equity. The profs arrives at the pivotal moment where we have AI dominating in discourse in the global north and is overlooking the uniqueness of the challenges and opportunities of the global south. So this book reflects AI not as a luxury of the privileged of a few, but a lever for shared prosperity to all, including the global south. But as it presented for AI to work, it needs us, all of us, to address first the broad non-AI intervention, which include poverty, unemployment, inequality, corruption, energy, and inadequate infrastructure, to name but a few. So, as a first, the global south must transform itself in those areas before we focus on artificial intelligence. The key things that resonate with me or with us as engineers was the contextual solutions to local problems and the democratization of of technology, where we're saying we don't have to dependent on imported AI system. Instead, we can have a homegrown solution. So the global south can leverage on that. There's also ethical AI development, which was an issue that you raised. And the biggest takeoff for me was movement from theory to practice, especially in three engineering areas, where we're saying we have to use infrastructure as a foundation. So we need that robust digital infrastructure that the global south must invest in. We also have the issue of education and capacity building, which is Prof is always been preaching about that. We also look at areas of PPPs, the public-private partnership. So the books highlight the areas of collaborative models that engineers should engage or policymakers to move forward. As a closing challenges, I think it's a challenge for all of us to start designing with purpose, because AI can solve real problems everywhere for real people. And the issue of advocating for inclusion, that will ensure that the women, the youth, and the rural communities are involved in shaping AI future. And also working and designing for sustainability so that we move away from quick fixes that at times entrench inequality. To the Prof, we thank you again for lighting this part to us on AI, and that the global south can benefit from AI and move in the path or march together with the global north. To all of us, let's build an AI future starting today. Let's build on from these launches as we continue to learn and learn and learn. So for the global south, AI renaissance. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chair. Really appreciate it. I have a question not for you, for Prof. Tabara. It's open up the question and answer session. Try to invite you to come to the podium so that we can ask questions on AI and other technology issues. Prof, do you think we will be able to translate physics and mathematics into short and very using AI? Just a question.
My question is on the use of AI in our education systems. I've seen sometimes students, they submit work that you can see from a distance that this was just AI. There's no contribution from the student. So I want to ask, how do we leverage AI as students and as researchers so that there's also my work and my intelligence in the work, and there's also artificial intelligence augmenting my intelligence in my work, and what are the ethical issues around AI related to education and the engineers that we are producing? Thank you.
My question is, what are the chances that we as developing countries or third world countries are going to remain behind? As in, what are the chances that the gap between the developed world and the developed countries is going to widen because of artificial intelligence, considering the fact that really don't have much in terms of infrastructure. You also mentioned the issues to do with energy. We are trailing behind. So what are the chances that artificial intelligence is going to widen that gap? And what can we do in order to avoid that gap widening further?
Thank you. Thank you very much, Prof. My question is on policy in terms of AI implementation vis-a-vis on global south countries. It is a norm that the global south has a huge problem in terms of policy implementation in terms of, like, if you look in Zimbabwe now, we don't have even an AI policy, even SADC, even AU. What is it that we can do? Because without that policy, there is no moving forward or to jump frog for us in order to meet the AI development. Thank you.
Okay. 3 questions, I'll answer those. Let me start by answering what has been asked already by my sister here in front. As an entrepreneur, what can I do? Number 1, the young people in the house. Don't just use AI. Think about how you can be a creator of AI systems. That would be a very entrepreneurial activity, the creation of apps. Don't just use other people's apps. Why don't you, as an entrepreneur, say, I want to be a producer of AI systems? That's an opportunity that AI presents to you. The other one is data. Without data, there's no AI. Why don't you say, I'm going to do the harvesting of data in Zimbabwe, the curation of data in Zimbabwe, that are being sparked by my book. So they're answering your question. Now, AI in education, you know what that means? It means you got to be more creative if you're going to learn. It means you're going to be very creative if you're going to be able to teach. It can't be, your old way of teaching is not going to work. Your old way of testing students is not going to work. You must be more creative. Set that homework, set that test in a manner that even if they use AI, they'll do some thinking. It's much harder than your old test, your old homework. So the teacher, the lecturer, the professor have to up their game. You must be so creative in the way you set the question that even if they use AI, they can't solve it completely without applying their brains. Think about the calculator. Long ago, there were no calculators. So the exam, you have to do everything mentally. And so when the calculator came, it didn't destroy education. It meant you now use the brain to do other problem solving. Then at the end, where you're now adding 5 plus 5 plus 6, you can use your calculator. Sin 60, calculator. But before you get to sin 60 and 5 plus 5, there's some thinking to be done solving the problem. So what means teachers, before calculations, just adding was part of the test. But with calculators, you can't just have a test that says 5 plus 5 because I use my calculator. But you can have a word question. The speed of a car is this, and this is going this way. So the kid will have to apply their mind around the word question. Then at the end, they have 5 plus 5, and then they have sin 60 minus sin 30, okay? And then they take the calculator now and say sin 60 minus sin 30, they get an answer. But to get to that, there was some word and problem solving going on. Similarly, you have to make sure that your test, your problem that you give students as a teacher allows them to exercise their minds even if they're using AI. And also, you as a student now, you also have to make sure you are creative if you're going to learn, if you're going to do this. It's going to be harder. Unfortunately, professors, you can't ban ChatGPT. You can't ban technology. Your challenge, again, debates is, how do I continue to be an effective teacher in the presence of ChatGPT? In the same way, in the old world, they said, how can I continue to teach mathematics when the kid has his calculator? You take it for granted, but some people had to address it then. You kids get into an exam with a calculator. And there were sliding rules at some point. So anyway, technology is always coming through. Your job is to make sure you learn. It's harder, but not impossible. It just means Everyone has to be creative if we're going to continue to teach, if we're going to continue to learn. The gap, first of all, language. In the narrative, in the discourse, people are not very comfortable with third world. It's very pejorative and very judgmental. So people don't want third world as a phrase, political correctness. In the world of language, they also don't like the word developed world and underdeveloped. The better terms are least industrialized or emerging. That's why when we define Global South, we say emerging and least industrialized countries. Just language issue. But anyway, that's why I wrote the book to answer your question. If we don't do what I'm talking about, the gap between the rich nations and the poor nations is going to increase. The gap between the global north and global south is going to increase. So I'm trying to say, please let us not allow that to happen. Why don't you and I, my sister from my other mother, why don't the two of us sit down and say, this is a wonderful technology. How can we use it so that we can grow our economy? We reduce the gap between the haves and the have-nots. What can we do to improve the quality of life of our people? So I'm worried about that issue, because if we don't, with $4 trillion coming from generative AI going to America, with 10% of global GDP going to America, they're going to move into the stratosphere, and we remain in the gutter. So your question is what worries me. And I'm saying the way to do it is to say, this thing is interesting. There are applications in mining. There are applications in agriculture. There are applications in healthcare. There are applications in governance. There are applications in tourism. Once we do that, then we're going to grow our economies and maybe slightly and maybe slowly reduce the gap between, but it's a major concern. Two things. If we're not careful, the gap between the global south and global north is going to increase. Then within countries, the gap between the poor and the rich is going to increase. In other words, in America, the poor, the rich. In Zimbabwe, the rich, the poor. So intra-country differences are going to increase. Inter-country differences are going to increase. That is the reason why I wrote the book, to say, please, let us prepare our countries for this transformative technology so that we are not left behind. If we do nothing, if we don't actively embrace, proactively embrace this revolution, unfortunately, your worries will come to fruition. We have a challenge, we have a problem, we have work to do. Policy implementation, very important, and I've emphasized it before. Please let us develop policies, let us do vision, but let us develop what's called implementation as a science. Implementation is a science. We must learn the art of doing things. Doing is more important than dreaming. Let us do more and talk less. Implementation is a science. That's why we talk about an implementation matrix. Who's going to do what? When are they doing it? Where is the money coming from? What are the timelines to success? What are the milestones to measure success? How are we going to monitor and measure? How are we feeding back? Implementation matters. How do we prioritize these activities? How do we sequence it? Implementation is a science. We must spend more time discussing how we're going to do things, but more importantly, spend time doing things. There's this debate in business that says, what is more important, strategy or execution? False dichotomy. Execution is strategy. If you're not doing things, you have no strategy. Another cynical view, it's better to have a poorly developed strategy which is maximally executed, effectively executed, than to have a perfect strategy which is never implemented. Execution, execution, execution. Now, coming to AI, we need a framework, and I talk about it in detail in the book. Each country must have a national AI vision. Each country must have a national AI strategy. Each country must have a national implementation strategy. That is the beginning at national level. It's not enough We must have the same at SADC, the SADC AI vision, the SADC AI strategy, the SADC AI implementation matrix. That's not enough. We go to the continent, the African AI vision, the African AI strategy, the African AI implementation matrix. Those three layers must talk to each other. The continent is talking to the region is talking to the country, vice versa, back and forth, harmonized at 3 levels. I talk about it in the book. When you do that, then we can say Africa, Zimbabwe, SADC is ready for the AI revolution by having this framework at national level, at regional level, and continental level. There are efforts at the AU right now, but they're not very good. I critique them in my book. I do a SWOT analysis and show the deficiencies that the AU, but they've done an effort, I talk about it in the book. So that's what we need to do. Then of course, once we've done that, we emphasize on the implementation, as you are stating. We emphasize on the policy implementation. AI policy is important, but within the context of a vision, as I showed in my chart. Strategy, vision, policy, implementation. Very important that you are raising that issue. We must remember, I spoke about numbers. Yes, we must organize ourselves as Zimbabwe, but we need to think more as SADC. And then more importantly is the African continent, so that we are able to embrace AI as 1.4 billion Africans with a collective GDP of $3.1 trillion. That would be a better framework to adopt AI so we can compete about it. China is successful because China has 1.4 billion people as one unit. They have a GDP of $19 trillion. That's why they're a player. You know why? Once you have a product in China, a TV, a phone, a computer, you have a market of 1.4 billion people. How can you lose? How can you lose? I've built a computer, I've built a cell phone, and there is a market. Size of market is important. That's why if we work together, for example, as Africa, and we say Uganda is going to produce a tractor, Zimbabwe is going to produce a lorry, and Malawi is going to do a bakkie, and Zambia a car. We declare at the AU, we are all going to buy our bakkie, are going to buy a tractor, a lorry. It means those lorries, that tractor, that car has a market of 1.4 billion Africans. How can that industry fail? But because you are brainwashed, you want Mercedes-Benz. You want a tractor from John Deere. But if we're organized and they say, we are the governments buy tractors, government buys lorries, government buys bakkies, we as governments that we control will buy the bakkie from there, the lorry from there, the tractor. Those industries in Malawi, Zambia, Uganda, and Ghana, if we are united, you can't do it if you're not united. Again, I'm emphasizing that yes to national organization, yes to SADC, but the future belongs to the continent. But however, on that, let me say that there's no such thing as a free lunch. You must give up on something to win. You must give up on some elements of national sovereignty to embrace the region. Give up on some elements of national sovereignty to embrace the continent. Look at the Americans. Don't you think the governor of California would have loved to go to the UN as President of California? That would be nice, right? President of California. Georgia would have loved to go as the governor, but President of Georgia. President of New York. Wouldn't it be nice? The Americans gave up on a president for California. The Americans gave up on a president for New York. They gave up on a president for Texas to have one president. But guess what? They're the biggest economy in the world. Right now, do you know that California as an economy has just overtaken Japan? California, if you look at California as an economy, it's number 4 in the world. But you know what? The Americans are, no, it's okay. We love to be the United States of America so that we're number 1 in the world. Do you know that that unit is not cheap? The worst war the Americans fought was not the First World War or Second World War. It was the Civil War. More people died in America in the Civil War than those that died in the First and Second World War put together. They bled to be America. They bled to be united. The Civil War was about splitting. They killed each other to unite. So when you see them and admire them, hey, America's number 1 in the world. They got a GDP of $27 trillion. It came out of blood. No such thing as a cheap and free lunch. These presidents you have, how many? 55. President of starving people. Why do you want 55 of you? When we are successful, the one president in Africa, maybe coming out of Gabon, Ramaphosa will be Minister of Agriculture for Africa. Mnangagwa will be Minister of the Youth in Africa. Is Ramaphosa ready to be Minister of Agriculture? Is Mnangagwa ready to be Minister of the Youth? Go ask them. That's the reason why it never happens. It's never been. We just talk it. We're not ready. I want to be president of starving people. There's no such thing as a free lunch. If you want to integrate Africa, you must give up on your little presidents. The people will do much better. Our lives will be much better with one president, one army, one cabinet. Will be like America. They have one president. China, one president. India, one prime minister. Why do you need 55? What's so special about you? Anyway, I'm emphasizing this revolution will be harder as fragmented nations. Let us work together and implement policies. Let me take the second set of 3 questions.
Thank you. Thank you so much. So the question that I have is on the project that we're working on. We're working on a legal AI clinic for AI and robotics. So our AI or our application is targeting Zimbabwe. We are trying to target the lawyers, the students, the employer, the employee, so that our application that we develop can help everyone. So we're going to have it in different languages, English, Shona, and Ndebele, such that maybe someone who's in the remote areas who doesn't speak English or doesn't speak Shona, maybe speaks Tonga, can be helped by our application. But some of the challenges that we've been facing is most people don't know what AI is. And the sector that we are targeting is law. So you would find that some law students are still maybe not, they don't know that you can just use your phone to scan maybe notes and then the AI just writes notes for you. They don't know that. They don't know that you can upload the whole document and ask an AI to analyze the document for you and give you answers and perspectives. They don't know that. So some of the challenges that we have in the tech sector is assuming people know what AI is. And because of that, we would, there's also the gap that we are saying, the arts person thinks AI is for science students. They don't want to hear about it, they don't want to join the conversation, but the solutions that we're trying to create, we're trying to be inclusive. It's not only for tech. For me to be able to develop an effective AI for maybe the law students is if I understand the law. So I have to go to someone who knows the law, who knows more about it, and then we come together and we make the application. So what I wanted to ask was advice. How can we move forward? How can we include everyone? And to make maybe better impact for what we're trying to achieve.
Thank you, Professor, for the wonderful presentation and the exciting book. My question is what we probably want to avoid. There is a lot of debate on the possibility of AI destroying a lot of jobs, and even according to your own equation that you put there, that the prayer is that the new created jobs are always going to be greater than the ones that have been destroyed. As of course, from even your example, you spoke about self-driving cars. That is, a lot of taxi drivers and drivers are going to lose their jobs. Even if you look at many sectors like finance, obvious computers are better than human beings in terms of crunching numbers, reading text, analyzing text. In the event, maybe what we don't want to happen, in the event that, let's say, most of these jobs are destroyed, don't you foresee a system or a situation whereby maybe the owners of these systems, like the open AI and all those who are running those systems, the Groks and everyone, are the ones who are going to be able probably to, in the long run, maybe let's say 20, 30 years to be able to survive, and the rest of the human beings are going to be without jobs and without means probably to survive. What do you think will be the implications economical and on the demographics, maybe on the population, when these people don't have means of surviving?
You have demonstrated the much unmatched for us as African continent to publish books and presenting on this book launch. So my question is, I was following through your presentation, and you were talking about this AI tool keeping on rising exponentially and learning from our behaviors as human beings and the environment and the data which is existing currently. So is there no a policy or framework to cushion or to curb some of the fatalities that might be incurred by this integration of AI technology? For instance, you find that those states that have managed to develop this AI tool, they are only serving for their own interests and also gathering information and data from other states and nations. So won't it also leave the vulnerable nations like us in the African continent who are underdeveloped to be in a recession or in a war for other conflicts to do with AI, since we are not yet able to develop ourselves to the apex like other nations? Thank you.
An example, my sister at the back there, of what can be done. Basic thing, they're working on it, so I'll take your question more of an illustration of what young people can do in Zimbabwe using AI. But I want to dramatize one point you raised, awareness. In the book, I addressed the subject of what do we need to do to prepare for AI. The number one issue is awareness. Do we even know how we can benefit from AI? Do we even know what is AI? So the problems we've raised about awareness, it's a major requirement for us to embrace AI. Without awareness, we won't go very far. So your work is excellent, and you must address that awareness, because without awareness, there's no uptake. People who are going to benefit from AI don't even know how they're going to benefit. So a major preparation effort is about awareness. So we take lessons from your efforts. We appreciate your efforts. What we want to do is now, advice to you now is two things: scale and impact. You've done very well. Your challenge is, how can I now scale up my activities so I can cover more areas? How can I have impact? Two things, scale and impact. You must now ask yourself, how do I achieve scale? How do I achieve impact? And how do I also share within SADC? Remember, if you've done this in Zimbabwe, surely Malawi can learn from you. You can also let our colleagues in Mozambique learn, and we can learn from them as well. So scale and impact, and then regional expansion, continental expansion. And then, how do I learn from the global north? how do I learn from the global south? Those are my challenges of how you can do things better. You see, the discussion about jobs, we must do it systematically. When we say destruction of jobs, we must accept that there will be destruction. What we need to do is to say, how do we reskill the job losers? How do we move them from the job destroyed to the new jobs? And you must be very clear, there are three categories: job destruction, job modification, which is most of us. In fact, there's no one who can say, my job is not touched by AI. I could hardly think of any profession which is untouched by AI. So most of our jobs, if they survive, are going to be modified by AI. But most significantly, there are some new jobs which never existed before. But you can't take them up unless you build the skill base, unless you build the competencies that are required to do those. So we must do that. We must make sure that we do that. And that's why we're writing the job. If we don't do that equation right, I said to you that then you can have AI create problems because there'll be less jobs because of AI. That's why we're writing this book, to avoid that. And the global powers, you are right, they have an agenda, they got their own economies. And they're competing. And they don't even think you matter. They're not even worried about you. You saw they said, we are worried about China. Let us make sure in the AI systems there are no Chinese values. They didn't say African values because they are non-existent. I mean, in their minds. But of course, we exist. So if we don't do what I'm proposing in my book, you are very correct. The rich will become richer and the poor, poorer. The big elites will make serious money and they'll run the world to our detriment. But don't be a complainer. Have agents. Be a master of your own destiny. Be a master of your circumstances. Make AI work for yourself. And the beauty about AI, look at what they're doing. AI is an equal opportunity technology. Why? Because just a good brain and a computer and connectivity, you can do wonders. Just like the cell phone was an equal opportunity, you see, I always find it fascinating. The big boss, the CEO, is on a cell phone. The gardener is on a cell phone. But you can't say that about the car. The big guy is driving a car, the gardener has no car. The big guy's got a TV, the gardener has no TV. So those technologies were not equal opportunity technology. But cell phone, you might have a smartphone, but the gardener, whomever you call your gardener or your maid, has a cell phone and they're tweeting just like you. They are on EcoCash. In fact, you know, the funny thing is that because you are so rich, you go to the bank and the poor person is doing EcoCash. So you find that poor people are better at EcoCash than you with your money because you have checks which are dying now. You got bank cards and you go to the bank and so on. So you don't even know how to use EcoCash. So the poor have an advantage over you and your money. So think about AI as an equal opportunity technology. That if you proactively embrace it, this is the word, leapfrog. Sometimes our poverty, sometimes our lack of development is an opportunity to leapfrog. Just like we did with what? With the mobile telephone. There were no wires. There was no physical wire system. So we moved from no communication to mobile telephony. So if we are clever, some of these AI technologies can allow us to leapfrog. The question is which ones? Again, that's the question. Which ones can we use for leapfrogging? So yes, you are correct. There's a danger, but we can do something about it. That's why we're writing books. Yeah, the issue of curbing and controlling AI, that's why governance, there's a chapter on governance. We need AI governance. We need AI regulation and regulations. But we can only go so far because governance and regulations are for good actors like you and me. What if I'm a thief? By definition, a thief doesn't obey laws. So they use AI to break into banks and steal money because I know the rules don't allow me to do that, but I'm a law breaker. I'm a bad actor. So I'm going to use AI for bad intentions. I'm a warmonger. I like fighting. I'm going to build a nuclear weapon which is autonomous. And warmongers are your favorite countries, right? So you can govern, but there's a limit. Like I said, you can't come up with an agreement that says, ladies and gentlemen, we must not do autonomous weapons. Ladies and gentlemen, we must not do autonomous nuclear weapons. You can't, because we are in a world of conflict. They're competing, these people. So yes to governance, we must have governance to mitigate and manage, but also remember there are limits to which you can go. Once the genie is out of the bottle, you can't put it back. And the reason why AI is worse than nuclear weapons, do you know we've had 50 years of nuclear weapons? Not a single terrorist has been able to manufacture a nuclear bomb. You know why? You need to be a nuclear physicist. You need uranium. You need equipment which is sophisticated. So no one in 50 years who is a rogue, I mean, the others are rogues too, but the rogue proper, no terrorist, fortunately, has been able to put together a nuclear weapon. But guess what? You can't say that with AI now. AI, the barriers to entry are so low. Just a good brain and a computer and connectivity, and you can do wonders, bad wonders and good wonders. That's why there's fear about AI in the hands of bad actors. And we talk about that in the book. However, I want to concentrate more on the good things than the fears. It's a technology, it's a knife. You can use a knife to cut butter. You can use a knife to kill. But we don't burn knives. We use knives to cut butter and cut meat and cut bread. That's what we should do with AI. Let us concentrate on what we can do that is positive using AI. But we address those things in the book. Actually, the question you're asking me are the reason why I wrote this book. I'm concerned about the gap. I'm concerned about governance. I'm concerned about the destruction of jobs. And I'm being proactive to say, what can we do to mitigate? What can we do to manage? I'll take the last set or last question. If there's someone, the burning question, that's the last set now. Yeah.
The frown of a he-goat does not prevent it from being slaughtered. So what I'm saying here is artificial intelligence is coming, whether we like it or not, it's imminent. But my main worry is the accessibility of the knowledge which you are sharing to that poor person, my young person in Totito. The knowledge, this we are saying. My specific focus is on the cost of the knowledge in the global south, what is happening. Most of the knowledge in global south, it's hard to reach for a poor person. It's meant to be consumed by the very people who are in the West End, because they are the ones who are well-managed. So my question, my humble question is, Prof, what are you doing so that knowledge can help with African, for the African, by the African, in Africa?
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much for such a lovely presentation. You just gave me nostalgia. You took me back to my years back in UZ. And thank you so much for writing this book. So, Prof, my question is centered around the funding models, around developing AI systems or AI models that will benefit the global south. So the current model that is being shown by the global north is being funded by private sector players that are putting in, as you rightly mentioned, anything in the north of 2 billion towards AI development. But when we look at the global south, such levels of funding cannot be easily channeled or cannot be easily put aside towards a single item, let alone AI. So is there anything in your book that addresses how we can start developing models, funding models that help create AI systems that benefit us as members of the Global South? And then secondly, obviously, would be those of us that are within this space cannot be easily retained within the Global South. So if there is any talent that exists within the Global South, within the space of AI, they are easily absorbed and taken up by those players that are existing within the Global North. So then that becomes a challenge to retain and keep talent within the Global South that is pushing the agenda for AI development. Thank you so much.
Prof, I wanted to ask something that can be really significant to me as the youngest person, I think, in the room. I'm serious, I'm 28. So I wanted to ask Guti if I'm a young person and I have ideas or things I might need help with, how can we approach our government or people that are significant that can help us with this newfoundly technology called the artificial intelligence, for us to integrate our ideas into society? Yes, as I can see, the current infrastructure cannot support us. What can we do to approach our government or anybody who's significant to help us? And I know you said one question, but can I last ask one question? Guti, when it comes to the equation or the equating of African wealth, for us to equate African health, is it correct for us to be presenting the world of Africa the way we are? Yes, all the analysis is done by the people that are in the West, and they don't look at what we have underneath the ground or the people, the minds and the values. So my question is it correct to equate our wealth, as you said, I think it's 3-point-something trillion in Africa. Is that the correct figure? Look at the vegetation we have, the animals, the minerals. Is it correct for us to be like NVIDIA is more wealthy, if I can put it in that sense, more than Africa? Is it correct or? Thank you.
My question is going to go back to policy, in the sense that we have, it's a norm, I think, in the Global South that the political leaders are slow when it comes to adopting technology, right? But we have institutions such as the Zimbabwe Institute of Engineers here. We've got the Computer Society of Zimbabwe here. What scope, or do you address that in your book, of how they can perhaps be forerunners of AI strategies and visions, such that by the time the political leaders eventually catch up, then it's ready for adoption? So that's my question. Is there scope for such institutions, the ZIE, Computer Society of Zimbabwe, and other allied, even the academia, to say, whilst the political players are doing whatever they're doing in parliament, we are running with this because we have already seen the future ahead of them? Thank you.
Thank you very much. Don't wait for the national AI vision. Don't wait for the national AI strategy. Don't wait for the government. Do what you can as a company. Do what you can as an industry to adopt AI, to use AI, to drive AI. But for sustainability in this competitive world, we must make sure as a country we are organized into a national AI vision. Also use your influence to drive the policymakers, the parliamentarians, and the government to draft a national AI vision. But don't wait. But however, in the long run, it's important that the country is organized. That's what we're finding from the case studies. The Chinese are organized as a state. The people of Rwanda are organized as a state. Kenya the same. But it's no excuse for you not to move. So yes, go ahead as ZRE, go ahead as the Computer Society of Zimbabwe to drive AI, but also use your influence to drive the ministry, to drive the government. That's why in Harare, where the Minister of ICT in the audience, and she spoke as well. The Minister of Skills was there in Harare, because in the long run, you must, as a country, as a government, be with the program. So, however, don't wait. You can move. You can move as much as you can, but sustainability requires us to work together. Access to AI is a fundamental issue in the book. We must democratize the access to AI, democratization of AI. We must democratize the access to knowledge. That's why we are writing, so that the knowledge is also coming from us. And that's why we're doing this seminar, we're doing this book launch, so people can know about the ideas. And that's why the books are on sale. Unfortunately, the Global South controls the books. You know, the book is very expensive because it's published by an American publisher. It's well done, but very expensive online. Amazon, Routledge, and so on. But we've managed to get some discounted copies, but still very expensive. But you're right, we must make sure we fund a mechanism to democratize the access to knowledge, the access to AI. It's a major agenda item. But also by talking, we are spreading. This book, I'm doing excerpts every Friday. I hope they do so tomorrow in the Independent. Publishing, and online publishing, on my website, on Twitter, publishing, so that even if you don't buy the book, you get some ideas for free. You are very correct. Without democratization of AI, without the democratization of knowledge, it will be very hard for the Global South to cut it out. We must make sure we do something about that, and we talk about that in the book. The funding model, very important. You know, when we say ChatGPT, for that thing to be put together, they used $200 million, $300 million, serious money, which ordinarily in the Global South, you can't invest in one little program, such kind of money. You have 200 PhDs working on the ChatGPT. We don't have that many PhDs to deploy. The energy, as I said, they are using energy that Zimbabwe as a country is using in a year. In money. We got to work together to address the issue of the funding model. We can't adopt the funding model in the North because it is difficult for us. And also remember, we call it a financial ecosystem. There must be a financial ecosystem in Africa supporting AI infrastructure. Yes, the funding model has to be thought through, and we have to be creative. And one answer is our private sector working together across the borders. Don't get caught up in these borders. They're not your borders. They're from 1884. You know the joke about borders. One night, the day before, we were working as a family. The next day, after 1884, the wife is in Malawi, and the husband is in Zimbabwe. They put a line through there. There are more Tswana people in South Africa than in Botswana. And yet, Botswana is the place for the Tswana. The border just cut through. So these borders, yes, we're working with them, but don't be so fanatical about the borders. They are not our borders. Let us work across the borders to address funding models. Brain drain. You know, it's a challenge, but we can't stop it. Why don't you leverage it? The Chinese in America are taking care of China. Remittances, ideas, advocacy. The Indians in America are taking care of India. So what we need to do is to make sure the Africans in Europe, the Africans in America have Africa on their minds. How do they help us? You come up with an AI vision. You talk to James Manyika, who's the deputy president of Google. Hey, James Manyika, you are a Zimbabwean. Here's our policy on Zimbabwe. Can you look at it and give us ideas? Hey, you are there in Silicon Valley. Can you get some investors for us? In other words, the people in the diaspora must be thought about as money in the bank. Let's leverage our Zimbabweans in Japan. Let's leverage our Zimbabweans in South Africa, our Zimbabweans in Russia, in China. So that, yes, we need some people in the country, what we call a critical mass. But those outside must be helping us with ideas, access to markets, to investors. But the challenge I know is you politicians are worried about, but how are they going to vote if we give them the vote? Because you know, the slogan is, no taxation without representation. The Zimbabweans in the diaspora also want to vote in your elections. But I know you're worried that they're going to vote wrongly. I don't know what that means, to vote wrongly. So our attitude toward the diaspora is that, number one, let's encourage some to come home so they can be part of the critical mass. But those that remain outside, we must look positively towards them. Is our money in the bank? Leverage them. Don't be insecure towards your people. You know, I have friends, Mabena, who are now cardiologists in America. They say, I'm coming to Zimbabwe on holiday for 3 weeks. I want to give a lecture for free at UZ about cardiology. I want to give a free lecture at NAST. And then the dean is like, but this guy, won't he take my job? The insecurity of our people in the country towards our people in the... I've had cases, serious dean, where someone offers to come to UZ just to do a lecture or a week for free. They come home. They want to go and visit Victoria Falls and they're on sabbatical or they're on holiday and they want to teach for free. But the dean, the engineer, is circumspect. You think you know too much. Are you registered? You're asking a guy who went to Oxford, who trained it, and who is now a surgeon, a cardiologist in America. Are you registered in Zimbabwe? Do we have you on our records? No, you can't present a lecture. Little Zimbabwe, judging someone who went to Oxford, who is trained at Harvard, who is now a cardiologist in America. You want him to be registered. We need to change our mindset if we want to have the diaspora work for us. And I hope, I'm going to send them to NAST, and I'm sure NAST will be welcoming them. I'm going to send them to NAST, not to use it. Okay. Anyway, so it's a problem, but also a potential asset. The diaspora are a potential asset if we use them well. If we use them to solve our issues, there is a potential to benefit. Approach our government. You know, you can't do any of these things without government. That's why we had the Minister of ICT in our meeting yesterday, the Minister of Skills, because uptake can go into the private sector, but uptake by the state is also important. And I want the ministers, the government to look at these things. We need to build a country. And so, yes, we must approach our government, we must work with the government, work with those in power to make sure that we can move and innovate. But it's government and private sector working together. We need to work together. Map of Africa. You know, number one, the reason why we do that is because we want to make sure you don't underestimate your strength. The global north wants you to think that you've got nothing, you're useless, you're a dark continent. But we know, number one, we are so massive, we have so much land to do agriculture, to do many things, and I've demonstrated that the map we use is actually distorted by the colonizer. And we haven't changed it. I don't know why, because we're bankrupt and brainwashed. It's important that we know our strength, our minerals and all those things. We must know that, so that when we now approach AI, we know that, yes, we are behind, but we have a base. We have a background we can leverage. Now, $3.1 trillion, you're very correct. That's the official number if you use the standard definition of wealth. What do you have in your economy? They don't give value to what is underground. What have you taken out is what is measured. So 3.1 is an underestimation of our value. GDP of Zimbabwe, $26 billion. It's an underestimation of our value, but we're using the normal economics as defined by the global north. The performance of the economy and so on. So our number as Zimbabwe is $26 billion. And yet, we have so much platinum, so much lithium. But unless and until you get out of the ground and make it useful to yourselves, it is not going to improve the quality of life of the woman and the man in the country. So yes, in terms of natural resource base, in terms of other measures of wealth, we are much more than 3.1. But let's not get carried away by something underground. Get it out and use it to benefit your people. And use it to drive your economies. So we must do that. As I conclude, I want to emphasize the issue of inclusive development. I want to emphasize the issue of shared prosperity. But some of you are very selfish. I'm a rock star engineer. I'm a rock star professor. I'm a business bowler and short caller. I don't care about the poor. I'm doing fine. I'm rich. I'm educated. I have power. Although my country is poor, I have power. I've been there. I used to go to the World Economic Forum. I used to go to this place. It was at MIT, Oxford. At the World Economic Forum, I would speak. And they'll be like, wow, that's interesting, fascinating stuff. Where are you from? And then I refuse to answer. Yeah, I'm coming out of MIT, I'm coming out of Oxford, I work for McKinsey & Company. No, that's your resume. Where are you from? Which country? I try to pontificate and prevaricate and refuse to answer. Eventually I say, I'm from Zimbabwe. And I, come on. Professor Mutambara, if you are that smart, how come your country is bankrupt? If you are that smart, how come there are fraudulent elections in your country? How come there's cholera in Bulawayo and Harare? Mutambara, no Mutambara, you are no rock star. So the bankrupts of my country, the bankrupts of my continent, decapitates my superstardom. You'll never be respected as a Zimbabwean until Zimbabwe has done well as a country. You'll never be respected as an African until Africa has done well as a continent. I thank you very much. Okay.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Prof. Quite insightful. I was very worried that you preempted the whole book and this ladies and gentlemen are not buying.